it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I knew that Islam was the religion for me. I read the Quran. Actually, my former coworker had gifted it to me, and I'd read it 10 years ago. And when I had asked anybody, a Muslim, a question about something from the Quran, they had always answered in confidence, and it always just made sense to me. Solidified a lot of my thoughts, and a lot of the reason why I had converted was actually traveling overseas, seeing how these people are, because obviously in America, there is a little bit of bias towards that religion, and I've encountered that myself already, even when people didn't know that I was Muslim. Hey everyone, so I know it's been a little while since I posted a video online, and a lot of you had asked me on Instagram how or why I chose Islam as my religion, and I never really openly talked about this at all. Just because where I live, people I feel like are a little bit judgmental. I've always kept quiet, and I'm very private online, let me put it that way. There's a lot of things that I don't post, a lot of things that you guys don't see, and I guess so many of you have been intrigued knowing that I am Muslim, and I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So, a little background, I grew up Catholic, and my parents are still Catholic. Very religious Catholics. They go to church every Sunday. And, you know, I never had a bad experience being Catholic, let me put it that way. But I also never really felt like I had a connection to the religion myself. Now, I always knew that I believed in God, and I wanted to have a closer connection with God, and I wanted to be able to find out on my own how I can have that connection with Him, with God. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I knew that Islam was the religion for me. So 10 years ago, I worked in healthcare with a man from Karachi, Pakistan, and he was Muslim. And I was very ignorant to the religion. I didn't really study it a whole lot, but he inspired me actually to do my senior thesis in university on Pakistan. So that is when I really started digging into the religion, and eventually I just knew that it was for me. I had read the Quran. Actually, my former coworker had gifted it to me, and I had read it 10 years ago. And when I had asked anybody, a Muslim, a question about something from the Quran, they had always answered in confidence, and it always just made sense to me. And what I like most about this Abrahamic religion is that you believe in God, and anything that you do is between you and God. And Islam really projects intention. So what are your intentions, and if it's good and if it's kind? And I felt like in Catholicism, it was like you have to do this, or it's just wrong. And it doesn't even matter, like they never really pushed intention. But I always knew if you're just a kind person, that's all God really cares about. God just cares about your intention. He just cares about whether or not a good person. And you'll be forgiven for any mistakes as long as there's good intention behind it. And I also really liked the structure of Islam, and it really helped me in my 20s. I went through some very depressive states. I had been divorced from my children's dad. I was in two very physically terrible relationships that involved domestic violence, and I needed some kind of structure. So during those periods when I was dating and with these men, I never really thought about religion that much, to be honest. And it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago, almost, close to 5 years ago, that I started studying Islam again. And I still hadn't taken Shahada at this point, but I knew that I had wanted to. I just needed to read the Quran again and kind of get myself in that mindset. And, you know, I could have taken it, but I didn't. And I wanted to be structurally sound and capable and able to follow through with what I wanted to do when I became Muslim. So I had taken Shahada here in my hometown at the Islamic Community Center. And I knew that's when I wanted to start practicing religiously. So yeah, that's my story. And I've traveled a lot to Muslim countries. And honestly, what impresses me the most is that everyone I have met have been humble. Yes, there are bad people. I've only encountered rude Muslims, I guess you could say, online. And yeah, that turns me off. Maybe they're a little bit immature, I don't know. But in person, at least in America, I had seen Muslims being bullied before, but they've only ever responded with love and kindness and not super defensive. And when I had traveled overseas, I've only ever felt like I've been met with respect and kindness. And like I said, I think what solidified a lot of my thoughts and a lot of the reason why I had converted was actually traveling overseas, seeing how these people are. Because obviously in America, there is a little bit of bias towards that religion. And I've encountered that myself already, even when people didn't know that I was Muslim. And yeah, I have no shame and no doubts about being a revert. I guess there's a lot more I could say, but I would be just ranting at this point. So if you have any questions, you can always message me on Instagram, and I would love to, answer your questions. But I don't want to sound too unorganized and disorganized because I'm saying this off of the whim right now. So feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Catherine with a C, B page. And yeah, I will talk to you later.